So this short film I want to review is called Animal Behavior, and I really think that this should win the Oscar for Best Animated Short Film. And there's a lot of reasons why I say this. Like I think that this story is about though this short film is about a bunch of animals who are in group therapy, and so the first animal is a leech, and the leech suffers from separation anxiety, and also there's a ape named Victor who has an anger and a dominance disorder type of thing. There is Cheryl who's a praying mantis, and she suffers from sexual cannibalism, and I'll get into that. And then there's a character Jeffrey who is a bird, and he has some PTSD, and he also killed his brother as a child. And then there's a character who's a pig who is a chocoholic, and then there's a dog who has urges. And I really think that with this short film, I like how it was kind of interesting because all these animals instinctually they're all behaving on their own instincts. And I really think that it's interesting how they kind of flipped it to like every instinct is kind of a mental disorder type of thing. So there's a lot of things I do like about it. And what happens is it starts out with them all in group therapy except for Victor. So they're going around asking their problems. There's a dog that's in charge of the whole therapy session. So what happens is Victor, he's a monkey that comes in, and what happens is the story becomes about him and stuff. So the doctor asks him why is he in counseling, and the ape goes that what happened was that he was at a shopping that he was shopping one day, and he had a bundle of bananas, and what happened was he went to the 8 items or less aisle. So the bundle of bananas was 10 bananas altogether. So instead of counting it as a bunch, it was counted as 10 separate bananas. So he got so mad that he grabbed somebody's peas and destroyed the box of frozen peas and said, now, instead of one box of peas, it's 800 peas. So the person should go into the 800 item or less aisle and stuff like that. So he does have a bit of an anger issue. And then also he hears other people's problems. Like there's like a praying mantis, and what happens is she reveals that she has sexual cannibalism, and what that means is that when she has sex, because she's a praying mantis, she eats her boyfriends and stuff like that, because that's the behavior of a praying mantis. Jeffrey the bird, what happened to him was his story is that when he was born and stuff, he was born into a nest, and what happened is that he had a little brother, and he killed his little brother by pushing him out of the nest, because we've seen birds have that in their behavior. Todd the pig is obviously a chocoholic. He had an issue of eating truffles and all that, so he's off of that too, because some pigs are trained to eat truffles. The leech has separation anxiety because obviously leeches are a leech, and the dog, who is the psychologist, he had an issue with sniffing other dogs' butts and stuff like that. That was almost like an impulse for him, but he kind of overcame his urge and all that. So what I like is that how each character kind of gives their own story a bit, and it's not just one. It's not just like the other films I've kind of seen where it seemed like it was one character with one issues. It was a bunch of characters with a bunch of issues in this film, and one character's, because of his personality, makes his issue the main focus. And I kind of think that's a really good storytelling, because I think in the storytelling within the story, the ape character, he has an issue with being, he has a king of the jungle complex. He has an issue with anger. He has an issue with trying to be dominant. He reveals that because he was an ape in the jungle, that he was around other apes too. So he had to kind of be dominant his entire life. And that's kind of why he lashes out. That's kind of why he turned that group therapy session into everything about him and all that. And I think that's kind of a good touch. But I also kind of like, his character led him to take over. His character led his story and his premise and the main lessons of the entire movie to be told, because his character made himself the main character because of the personality and his character traits. And I think that's very strong storytelling. I also feel like, because these are animals, and these animals all have problems, but also the problems are influenced by the nature of the actual animal itself. I think that there was a lot of humor in this. Yeah, I also felt sorry for the ape too and stuff because he gets so mad that he destroys this psychologist's office, and he kind of like cries and stuff. He's kind of like, because there's a lot of people that I know, including myself, who've been through situations where people have kind of gotten under our skins or wanted us to kind of react, and then you feel bad for reacting, and then other people just kind of laugh at the fact that they upset you and stuff. So, it is kind of relevant to me and stuff like that. And I also think like the psychologist is trying to do his best to help him and all that. But in the end of the day, it does a good mix of humor. There's a scene in the short film where it looks like the psychologist almost loses his life, but he actually survives something. So this did make me feel happy. It did make me feel sad. It did make me feel angry. It did make me feel resonant with the characters. And I do think that the writing is very well done within this. And I also think that this is a very, very well made short film, and I really think it should win because there's a lot of great character depth and character involvement. And I really think that it doesn't feel like one story about one character. I felt like a story about a bunch of different characters. I felt like every character all together, there's a lot of different dimensions and personalities and angles. So I felt like for the length of this short film, they accomplished a lot. And I think for as a whole, with a story and with characters and with not really ambitious animation or not trying to make the animation look flashy itself or avant-garde, this really, really, really was very well. This was very well good for what it was. As a whole, as a completion, as a composition of everything together. So I really think this film, Animal Behavior, should win Best Animated Short Film. That's what I'm doing. Fingers crossed. All right, that's all you have to say.